Well, welcome in. It's the first day of May. A new month is here, and I think new additions to the 49ers roster are here as well. It's time now, since we have enough players to talk about, to make our first 53-man roster projection for the 49ers. In fact, Matt Barrows and I already made it on The Athletic. You can see it right there up on the screen. The 49ers post-draft depth chart, a 53-man projection, and a look at team strength. The link to this is in the description, and it is also now in the chat section. So go ahead and check that out right now. There you go. Go ahead and check it out in the chat section. I don't think you could click it up on the screen. I think $2 a month for The Athletic right now. This is the first depth chart projection and explanations of why we feel the way that we do. Obviously, things will change. Guys will get hurt. Stuff will evolve. But right now, we can actually look at the numbers and we could see where people might fit, and we can project certain battles moving forward into the offseason. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the spreadsheet version of the depth chart up on the screen for you. This is what it looks like. I'm also going to copy the link to this so you can follow along as I go through positions, and we will get started. So go ahead and go back into that chat section, and there you have the spreadsheet link. It's there for you. Already 100 viewers, so this is good. We're going to have some fun going through the 49ers roster. Hope everybody's having a beautiful Monday. I'm going to be in San Francisco a little bit later today. I already did a video on Joey Fisher, 49ers undrafted free agent offensive lineman, a big $130,000 guarantee. So make sure you check that out after you watch this. Then I'm going to have a whole lot more other snippets and maybe some fun food recommendations in the city, because I'll be out and about in San Francisco today. And that is always a fun day. Before tomorrow, I'll be out and about too. So 2 straight days in the city. Then I got to take a red eye on Tuesday. We'll have some Nashville action for you this weekend, obviously. Well, this week. Not sure if we're going to be going live from the wedding on May 6th. Hey, maybe I'll sneak one in, get you guys a quick little 1-minute update on Saturday. But right now is where we should be concentrating all of our 49ers attention. Anyway, here is the 90-man roster and a 90-man depth chart, which also is a 53-man projection. Anybody on the left side of this big bold line is projected to make the 53-man roster. Anybody on the right side is projected not to make the cut. But remember, there is a 16-man practice squad, which is essentially, especially by the new NFL rules, an extension of that 53-man roster. Those guys can contribute on game day. You can call them up. Obviously, there are limitations to that. Obviously, you get paid a whole lot less if you're on the right side of this, but it still means that you're in the building. And the 49ers have to build this roster looking at the big picture, and they have to insulate the roster against injuries, because as we know, those inevitably happen. So we're going to go through this position group by position group. I'm going to alternate between smaller and bigger size for that roster just to keep things interesting. But we will start with the quarterback position. As you can see, we have one player who's injured on this roster, one player who's shaded in pink, and that is Brock Purdy. So that means that you have Trey Lance and Sam Darnold in the QB room. Now, the 49ers still have a total of, I think, 4 90-man spots. I don't have the calculations completely correct with the spreadsheet on the right side, but I think they're at 86 men. They've got 4 spots left. They do expect to add a UDFA QB. I would slot the UDFA right here. As you can see in the QB room, I would put him right there, but they haven't named him yet. He's not going to make the 53-man roster. I would project Purdy to ultimately be on the 53-man, although he might start the season on PUP. We'll have to see what his recovery timetable is. And then it's Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. And it's going to be Lance against Darnold for the final quarterback spot. Not the final, the QB2 spot. I think they're probably going to carry 3 unless a trade does happen. But the only way that a trade would happen is if Brock Purdy blows everybody's socks off in his recovery. They're sure he's going to be healthy. And then Lance versus Darnold for number 2, and they need an extra roster spot for somebody else. I still am skeptical of such an approach because they ran out of quarterbacks last year. You're in no position to jettison QBs right now if you're the 49ers, unless you get an astronomical offer for somebody like Trey Lance. And because of the situation that I just outlined, an offer that would be worth it for the 49ers would, just have to be so preposterously big right now because he's worth more to them than he is to anybody else, given the fact that they have gone through such QB decimation recently. So basically, the way it's going to work, so many people are arguing about stupid stuff right now. They take offense to, passing comment that Ian Rappaport said about Lance being the third quarterback potentially this year. Lance is going to have a chance to prove himself this offseason ahead of Sam Darnold. Point blank. Brock Purdy's hurt. The 49ers favor Brock Purdy, but Lance and Darnold are going to split reps, and whoever the better option is going to earn that nod as the quarterback on top of the offseason, right? And then the Brock Purdy element will come into play once he returns from injury, but we can cross that bridge once we get to it. So if you're a big Trey Lance fan, you have nothing to worry about, right? You just say, hey, Trey Lance can compete for this. If you're a big Sam Darnold fan, you have nothing to worry about. Sam Darnold is going to compete for this, and Kyle Shanahan is going to pick the best man for the job. What Trey Lance won't get this year is a handout. The 49ers needed to see what they had in their investment last season, right? So there was no competition for Trey Lance. He was QB1 automatically. A lot has changed since last season. Lance got hurt, but while he was out hurt, Brock Purdy emerged. Brock Purdy wasn't a factor yet when Trey Lance was QB1 last season, but Brock Purdy has emerged. He has a whole lot more on his NFL resume now than Trey Lance has, a whole lot more on his college resume too. And because of that, he's the favorite for the 49ers top quarterback position. So now Trey Lance isn't in a position to get anything for free. Circumstances have changed. In fact, if you just give him something for free just to see what he has, that's called sunk cost fallacy. You don't continue pouring time and resources into something just because you spent a lot of resources on it in the past. That means that you're just spending more resources that you could otherwise, use somewhere else. So if you gave Trey Lance a job for free this year, then it would take away from, what Brock Purdy can contribute. And so far, we've seen that Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than Trey Lance. Now, might Trey Lance develop into that? Yes. And the 49ers can use this offseason to gauge what kind of trajectory he's on. Trey still has all of the opportunities in front of him. He just actually has to go out there and actively grab them. His time as the number 3 overall pick and, being given an opportunity just because of that, that's over. For better or for worse, good luck, fair, not fair, whatever you want to say, it's over because Brock Purdy emerged last year, and now Sam Darnold's in tow as well. Sam Darnold's also a former number 3 overall pick. So the 49ers are going to see which of these two fits them better, which of these two is a better football player under the context of their system. They can decide that this offseason. They can decide who at least is in the lead this offseason, and they probably carry all 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. I think it's as simple as that, because then you're going to have Brock Purdy enter the mix, and then we'll figure things out. So it's nothing to freak out about right now because everything is still on the table. It's all speculation, and people getting mad over speculation, to me, that doesn't make any sense at all. Find something more substantive to get angry about because you're wasting a lot of energy. Yesterday, just for show, I flip-flopped Sam Darnold and Trey Lance in this pecking order, and I just did that to show you that it makes absolutely no difference. People just have way too much ego investment in players, and they don't understand, I think, that, the 49ers are treating this quarterback room as a collective, not as individuals, as they should, because if you treat it as a collective, you maximize your opportunities of success. All right, moving on to running back right here, the running back room. It's going to be this very long and skinny horizontal rectangle. Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, Kyle Juszczyk, obviously a fullback, and as a running back, Ty Davis-Price are on the in. Out, the rookies, Ronald Awatt, Kalon Laborn, and Jack Coletto, who, I think will be a good practice squad candidate for sure as a fullback, kind of a, master of all trades. Or we'll put jack of all trades. We'll see what he's a master of out of Oregon State. He was an undrafted free agent signing. Maybe somebody they develop in the future to take over for Kyle Juszczyk. But I think it's make or break time for Ty Davis-Price. And yes, it only is his second season. Yes, he dealt with injury issues last year. But remember what happened to the third-round pick of 2 seasons ago last year. That was Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon only lasted 1 season with the 49ers. Then he was released right after cutdown day in season number 2, 2022. So the 49ers are stacked enough now, especially at the running back position, as you can see here, that they don't have to wait around for these third-round picks to produce. And if Ty Davis-Price doesn't produce in training camp in the preseason, Jordan Mason already has more on his resume. Elijah Mitchell already has more on his resume. McCaffrey is obviously going to get the nod as running back number one. Well, guys like Ronald Awatt and Kalon LeBourne are going to have a chance to step up, and they're going to have a chance to take that final running back spot. They'll also be lurking on the practice squad potentially. If the 49ers see enough from them, but they see enough from Ty Davis-Price to make the 53, well, you've got depth on the practice squad right behind everybody, and that depth can at any moment of the season usurp somebody who's not performing in this room. Now, in the running back room, you always have to count on injuries. Last year was exceptional because the 49ers didn't see anyone get hurt during training camp in the running back room. So they had a crowded room, and they had to take, I think, 6 of these guys, including Trey Sermon, but then they cut Trey Sermon, I think, the very next day or 2 days after that. So we'll see how they navigate the situation this year. They have options, and we'll just have to also just watch to observe what happens as far as injuries and as far as roster numbers. That is the running back position. Wide receiver. Is it going to be Danny Gray or Chris Conley for the last spot? Danny Gray, obviously, third-round pick. Speedster out of SMU. It's only going to be a second season, just like Ty Davis-Price. Hasn't done much of anything yet, especially on offense. Was a little bit more of a special teams contributor last year. But the 49ers signed a veteran, a 30-year-old, and Chris Conley, who's also a burner. So the thing that Danny Gray and Chris Conley both have in common, and they're right here on the depth chart. There's Danny Gray. There's Chris Conley, is that they're both extremely fast. As far as straight line speed goes, they're probably the fastest 2 receivers on the 49ers roster. That adds another dimension to Kyle Shanahan's offense. You could try to blow the top off with some of these guys. They may not be great in short area quickness. Conley's spider chart especially is wild to look at. I mean, he's great in the 40. He's, great on all the burst metrics, but it's the 3 cone and stuff like that that's complete garbage for him because he's just not good at, moving around shifty in small spaces. But there's something to be said about the straight line speed. Danny Gray, also something to be said about the straight line speed. So you say the last spot here, if they take 6, I think Ayuk, Samuel, Jennings, McLeod, Ronnie Bell, the 7th rounder, I project him making it because of his return ability to back up Ray McLeod. He's also a really good route runner. You talk about straight line speed versus short area quickness. Well, Ronnie Bell has the latter. Ronnie Bell's got the short area quickness, and I think Kyle Shanahan prefers that. The straight line speed, that's more of a luxury weapon, and I think the 49ers will carry one of the guys with straight line speed, but they're only going to carry one. So I think Danny Gray versus Chris Conley is the battle for that final receiver spot, barring any injuries. I'm going to move on to tight end. I hadn't made a text title here for tight end, so I'm making it right now. Tight end position. How about 2 new faces at tight end? Look at this right here. George Kittle, Charlie Werner. The 49ers have typically carried 4 tight ends on the 53 in the past. I have Ross Dwelley on the outside looking in. I don't know if this is going to come to fruition, but I think at least one of these draft picks is going to make it. They spent more capital on Cameron Latu, late 3rd rounder. Braden Willis was a 7th rounder. We've talked about them potentially overdrafting Cameron Latu, but whatever. He's on the team now, and the 49ers are going to see what happens in the context of that. Braden Willis, big yak guy in college, probably a more developed blocker right now than Cameron Latu out of Oklahoma. I think the 49ers' goal has been to bolster the spot opposite George Kittle for years now. They just haven't been able to do it for availability reasons, injury reasons, you name it, right? This year, they took a double dip at it in the draft with both Cam Latu and Braden Willis. Ross Dwelley's on another 1-year contract. I don't think there might be a little bit guaranteed in that deal. So maybe they do keep Ross Dwelley. Maybe he continues to be that steadying hand that at least gives them what they expect at the position. But if either one of these 2 or both of these rookies impress in training camp and this offseason, they're going to make the 53-man roster. And maybe it's Werner that's on the outside looking in, or maybe it's Dwelley on the outside looking in. But Werner seemed to surpass Dwelley on the depth chart last year. So buckle your seatbelts. I think that tight end position might look different come opening day. Offensive line. I think they take 9 offensive linemen. So obviously left to right, the starters, Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, Colton McKivitz. The depth, they signed Matt Pryor, veteran, to be the swing tackle. They signed John Feliciano to be the swing interior lineman. He started at center last year for the New York Giants, but he could play the guard positions as well. Nick Zakelj, they say that he's made some strength strides, that he might be ready to plug in as guard depth. So you have Nick Zakelj as an option on the roster. And then Jalen Moore is another backup tackle. But I talk so much about Joey Fisher, the undrafted free agent, who's so strong. The issue with Fisher are the shorter arms. I have him listed at right tackle right now because Joey played right tackle at Shepherd University, a small school. Yeah, but he's strong, he's fast, but the arms might be a little too short to play tackle, so they may have to put him in at guard. But if he is an undersized tackle, if he is competing for that spot, is it Jalen Moore against Joey Fisher for the final spot on the 53? Because Jalen Moore hasn't impressed all too much for the 49ers, right? I mean, he's started a couple games, but he has struggled. He obviously is lower on the pecking order than Colton McKivitz now. I'm wondering what they envision Joey Fisher as, because the height, weight, arm length, when we look at that, it's probably as a guard, but I still have him listed at right tackle because I see that the 49ers might have a need there. And they might want to let him compete with Jalen Moore to see what they have in Joey Fisher. And if that ends up being the case, usually they only take a max of 9 offensive linemen. That might be the final battle for that position. All right, so that's the offense. Has the offense gotten better? Has it gotten worse? You could look at the depth chart and decide. I think that the offensive line has a chance to be better than last year, but it just really depends on how Colton McKivitz delivers at right tackle, because left guard, center, and right guard, they're playing together for the second straight season. That's important. Running back, they're going to be better on day one than they were last year because they have Christian McCaffrey. QB, hold your breath. Let's wait and see. No more Jimmy Garoppolo, but you've got 3 options, and we'll see how the 49ers cultivate those options, and we'll also see how Brock Purdy returns from injury. Wide receiver, tight end, should be better than last year, right? Another year of maturity. The stars are back, and they're really trying to bolster that tight end position. So offensively, I think the 49ers have the potential to be a really, really well-oiled machine from week one based on the returners and based on the specific infusion of new talent from these rookies. All right, time to take a look at the defensive line. Let's pop it open again. Scroll down. Here you go. Defensive line is right here. I have 10 defensive linemen making the 49ers 53-man roster. They've taken 11 before. They've taken 9 before. So I think we could just go with the law of averages here and go for 10. Bosa, Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Jake Jackson across the front. Drake Jackson. I didn't say Jake. I was just speaking a little too fast. Cleveland Farrell, Kevin Givens, Javon Kinlaw. And I have Robert Beal Jr. making the team. I think his tech specs here, the 4.47 40, just the awesome burst. Remember the GTFO score that I talked about yesterday, tops of all draft prospects. I think this is going to be a guy that the 49ers want to develop, and other teams might want to try to poach once he starts getting buzz in training camp. So I actually have him making the team over Austin Bryant, who's a free agent signing out of Clemson, just like Cleveland Farrell, played for Detroit the past few years. Bryant just hasn't been all too productive, has been through injury issues. He's got a chance to make this team and force the 49ers issue, and maybe he would force off somebody like Kerry Hyder Jr. But I think Robert Beal Jr. is going to make the team. That's just my inkling. That's just an inkling right now. I need to see these guys practice, and we'll see how it shapes up. It should be really competitive because, as you can see, it's a stacked room. You don't have T.Y. McGill on the inside. He's on the outside looking in. Austin Bryant's obviously on the outside looking in. The other 2 guys, Spencer Wage and Alex Barrett, those are more practice squad projections. Barrett's been on the practice squad here in recent years for the 49ers. Wage actually is from North Dakota State. Trey Lance's former teammate in North Dakota State, edge rusher over there, could play some 5 technique for the 49ers. All right, let's go on. Linebacker position. I mean, this spot, they might be chock full of depth again. It all depends on how this group of rookies performs. But you have Warner, Greenlaw, Burks, front line. Obviously, D. Winters is the 49ers' top rookie, at least in their draft evaluations. He's really fast, and I think he's going to make the team just because of that 4.4 speed. Special teams is going to be good for him. And then Steve Wilkes can use him to blitz. He's going to use him to. He had 7.5 sacks last year for TCU. Flanagan Foles, special team stalwart. 49ers brought him back for another season. But then look at this depth right here. Between Jalen Graham, 7th-round pick, Mariano Suri Marin, undrafted free agent, and Marcelino McCurry Bowles, a second-year guy. That's three really young players who I think the 49ers they're high on all of them. High enough on Jalen Graham to pick him this year. High enough on Marcelino McCrary-Ball after his practice squad season to re-sign him for this season. He's a speedy linebacker out of Indiana. And, we still have to see what Mariano Sari-Marina has, but they did just sign him as a UDFA. So another year, another opportunity for the 49ers to develop some guys, see who they like as depth in that linebacker room, which is still a strength of this football team. All right, let's move on. Cornerback. How about this at corner, which is the first three rows here? And Quantrez Knight, by the way, over on the right side, he's kind of a versatile DB. I have him listed as a backup nickel back on the 90 for now, but in case you're wondering there. The big question, though, is Ambry Thomas. As you can see, I have Ambry Thomas on the outside looking in. 49ers signed Darrell Luter Jr., or they haven't signed him yet. They drafted him there in the 5th round out of South Alabama. I mean, this is a promising corner. Darrell Luter Jr. is nearly 6 feet tall. He's got a big wingspan. He's decently fast. He's a little bit quicker than he is fast, but he's just a dog as far as physicality goes. The one thing that stood out to the 49ers looking at Darrell Luter Jr. was strength. And he's not afraid to get in guys' faces. A little more like Diamaro Lenore than Ambry Thomas, right? Ambry Thomas came in a little physically weaker to the 49ers, is trying to improve at the catch point, is trying to improve in some of that press man coverage in the NFL. Darrell Luter Jr. looks like he was born to do it. I immediately think that unless Ambry Thomas shows really big strides, Darrell Luter Jr. is going to be ahead of him on the pecking order. So Thomas has to figure out a way to reverse whatever the sophomore slump was last year, because there's a crowd in the 49ers cornerback room. Ward, Lenore, Isaiah Oliver, the free agent that they picked up from the Falcons. Obviously, Samuel Womack had a nice rookie season, especially on special teams. And hey, again, if somebody gets hurt, Ambry Thomas is the first one they call. Somebody told me to look out for Deshaun Jameson, who is an undrafted free agent at cornerback. He supposedly has got some electrifying plays on film. So 49ers have built up some young depth in that cornerback room, and it should be a battle here this offseason. Finally, safety. How much does the new defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, like Miles Hartsfield? This is a veteran free agent pickup that they're paying the minimum from Carolina, but he's really fast. And they've typically only carried 4 safeties in the past. Obviously, Jair Brown, as their top draft pick, is favored to be one of them. You have Hufanga and Gibson. They're excited about Brown behind Gibson, maybe some 3 safety sets, and George Odom will make the team as a special teams ace. They take 5 safeties because Hartsfield played for Steve Wilks in Carolina. That's a big reason why they signed him. I don't know. Hartsfield's speed, though, might be something the 49ers are interested in having on special teams, in which case, anybody you add here, you're going to have to subtract somewhere else. Special teams, that's easy. There's no cost in cutting Zane Gonzalez. He's on the outside looking in. So you have Pepper, Jake Moody, the 3rd-round draft pick, and Mitch Wishnowsky. So in total, that defense for the 49ers, they were number 1 last year. They picked up Javon Hargrave. They're better across the front line for sure. Are they going to pick up another edge rusher? Well, starting tomorrow, I talked about this yesterday. Starting tomorrow, the 49ers can sign somebody without that signing counting against their compensatory pick formula. So that's a big deal for the 49ers. They also just restructured Christian McCaffrey's contract to free up $8.6 million. Also a big deal for the 49ers. The fact that those two things are happening so close together means that something might be cooking. I'm just doing some detective work. But Yannick Ngakoue, Justin Houston, Robert Quinn, edge rushers like that are still available. Jadeveon Clowney, still on the market. So we'll see if the 49ers make a little bit bigger splash. If they do, then that D-line room will have to readjust once again. Somebody gets bumped. But, at the bottom of that room, you got guys like Kerry Hyder Jr., you've got guys like Kalia Davis. At the bottom of that room, there is room to kick somebody out. You could also carry 11. Somebody probably will also get hurt before it's all said and done, right? That always seems to happen. And, the number shuffle is something you don't have to worry about for another 4 months or so. It's May 1st right now. So I think the defense, long story short, can be better. I think the offense, held serve for the 49ers. And if they see strides from certain players, like Colton McKivitz, for example, if he's a better pass protector than Mike McGlinchey, oh boy, the ceiling probably raises for the offense. The defense, though, with Javon Hargrave there and some of these really targeted draft picks like Robert Beal Jr., if they work out under Chris Kasarik, this defense can be better, because I think the secondary got more youthful. little turbocharge of energy there. And we'll see. Steve Wilkes is a DB coach. We'll see how he works with that unit. Obviously, Jake Moody is going to be a big variable for the 49ers this season, too. Say that he can replicate what Robbie Gould did on field goals, but is better on kickoffs. That can give the 49ers special teams a boost. So, my final verdict leaving the draft, and final verdict probably isn't the right way to term it because I'm not one to jump to premature conclusions. I'm going to let things develop. But my gut instinct looking at this roster leaving the draft is that the 49ers have enough moldable clay in all three phases of the game to make a team that is equal to or better than last year's team. Will they do it? I don't know. But they have the moldable clay there. That's the key, right, for the 49ers, is that you now, throughout the development portion of the offseason, you work with the raw materials that you got and you try to build something beautiful. Construction process formally begins for the rookies on May 11th. That's when they report for rookie minicamp. So we'll have a lot of material then. Okay, I'm going to be in San Francisco throughout today, probably the next 2 days. A lot of good content coming, some good food recs for you. We'll get some food on the channel. The weather is kind of windy and cold in the Bay Area, but that won't stop me from getting into the Bay, swimming a little bit today at the Dolphin Club. Have to get shredded before the wedding, of course. We only have like 5 days. That's crazy. Anyway, content will not stop rolling for you. Everybody like the video, subscribe to the channel, and those of you who just joined, this is where the depth chart, the first 49ers 53-man projection of the season comes from. This is on The Athletic, the best 49ers coverage there is. Matt Barrows and I teaming up for a lot of stuff. Link is in the description. Go ahead and check it out. About $2 a month or $1 a month. I don't know, whatever deal they're offering right now. But go and check it out. Link is now in the chat section as well. And you could look at that 53-man roster at work. Piss your boss off. I don't care, because it will make us happy. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Subscribe here as well. Like and subscribe here as well. Check out the article. Appreciate the support. Talk to everybody very soon.